the Nerds of Color, and I have the distinct pleasure of talking to Dan Trachtenberg and Jhane Myers. How are you both?
Hi. Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. So I'm going to start with Dan first. What inspired you to take the film in such an approach that feels slimmed down by comparison to the rest of the Predator franchise, where there's big guns, but this is more humanistic, down and gritty, and that has a more of a visceral feel to it?
Well, I think first part of that is that why we wanted to be a little more stripped down was the franchise had just been really adding a lot to it. As wouldn't it be crazy if this? Wouldn't it be crazy if this? Wouldn't it be crazy if that? Really piling on lots of ideas. And I thought, okay, well, I think the move next is to say, what if we go back to the roots of this and it really be much more of a mano a mano story, much more of a survival tale, and dig back into the real genre mashup quality. Except this time, instead of it being an action movie mixed with a horror film, that it feel more like an adventure movie mixed with a suspense film and a horror film. And then the extra piece that I added was taking the engine of a sports movie, something that would be far more relatable and I think emotionally engaging and thematically rich, and yet still super intense, even on its own. Even before you add any other genre element, there's still an intensity to that kind of story, and then it allowed for the violence to be beautiful.
For Jhane, can you talk about the impact of having the Comanche language embedded into this film, not only like in the actual release of it, but also the dubbing of it?
A huge impact that I would never think that I would see, in my lifetime. And the fact that it not only introduces the Comanche nation or Comanche language to the world, but it does a lot, to inspire our youth, to get people more involved within the Comanche nation, to go to our language program. How do you say this? How do you say that? Because just watching, because the Predator, he's universal and he reaches out to so many generations, right? But, for our young people to be able to watch a Predator movie and watch it in Comanche, that's amazing. That's incredible.
There's this one shot sequence. I just want to know how that was designed, and is that kind of movement, I guess, authentic in a way that she would hunt that way, or is there any way that we can look back on it and say, oh yeah, that's real, sort of thing?
Are you speaking to when she fights the fur trappers?
The trappers, yes.
Yeah. That was one of the earliest sequences that we choreographed and went through a lot of iterations to get right. I'm a huge fan of Hong Kong action movies and martial arts film, and I really wanted to have a great fight in here. Seeing her fight hand to hand or with weaponry, what have you. But she can't do martial arts. That wasn't a part of the protocol. So we worked with this consultant, Kevin Starblanket, who's First Nations and has a military background and a law enforcement background and survivalist and all these things that really helped infuse authenticity into all of the hunting in the movie, and assisted in the fight choreography to find a fighting style for Naru that felt authentic, but also having a little bit of fun with what that choreography could be, and seeing her systematically take down a bunch of guys using her hands and their weapons, ultimately getting her hands back on the weapon of her own that she made. And I think that and Jhane can speak to this too, the Comanche were obviously they were the most fiercest warriors to ever set foot probably on this continent, and they fought and hunted with great innovation. The way that they found methods to take down large groups of animals, and developing like the pincer move where they would circle, so I think we spiritually borrowed from that concept to allow the movie to have the fun that it has in its fight choreography.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you so much for you two for answering my questions. I'm going to tell everyone to watch this movie. It's really great.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Talking with Amber Midthunder. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I want to say that I really like the movie. It's just so amazing how you get into this role that's really, gritty, and just not afraid to get your hands dirty, basically. So I wanted to ask you this one, for Naru. She's basically forging her own, also her own identity. She can hunt, she can track, she knows how to forge weapons. We also see the scene where she's going in her own path, so to say, against the other women in the same tribe. So I was wondering what was like that, to build that character arc, I guess, in Prey.
That's something that was really thought about for a long time. When I auditioned for this movie, I didn't know that it was a Predator film. I only knew that it was a story about a young Comanche woman who wanted to be a hunter. So that to me was the movie. And it wasn't until much later that I learned, like, oh no, it's actually about a young Comanche woman who wants to be a hunter. Plus there's an alien warrior. So that story element was, to me integral in like figuring out who she is and navigating even like the journey with the Predator.
So you work really well with Dakota. There's this brotherly and sisterly dynamic that was so impressive, and it also shows, that there is a bond, that's not wasted or used on tropes, as previous Indigenous cultures have shown. Indigenous culture has appeared in movies. So what was it like to bring that to life, I guess, so to speak, in the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I was so impressed with Dakota and like everything that he gave, like he showed up to work every day and was just like 100 and like so happy to be there. And that energy on set, especially when you're doing a movie like this, which is like so hard or can be so hard, is, it's so nice to have people around who are like excited to be there. And you're right. I think that the opportunity to show different types of relationships and social dynamics and stuff like that inside of a movie that is like kind of period piece, technically, I guess, and show that especially with like Indigenous characters, is very unique, and I'm really glad that we were able to do that, especially within like an action movie.
So I gotta have one fun question. The dog. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was it like to work with her? Because, as all audiences, we fall in love with the dog. If the dog gets killed, we immediately go like, who killed her? We got it. So what was it like to work with your, four-legged co-star?
I love that people love the dog. I'm really surprised because I'm surprised at how that dog, I'll just say, that dog was chaos. We turn up every day. Like in the movie, she's so brilliant. Like she's great. She's beautiful. She's cute. She's like doing all this stuff. I swear to you, every single day that the dog was there, she was like, her real name is Coco. And she was just like running around and chaos. And it was just like, Coco, Coco. Like we went from like an action movie to like a sitcom anytime she was around. So what came out of the movie with her, I think, is amazing, because it was not like that. And that's not to the fault of anybody. She was adopted like 2 months before the film started, because that type of dog is what they found most accurate to the time period. So they had to get this dog specifically for the movie. And then she didn't spend years being trained like movie dogs normally are. She was trained for maybe 2 months and happened to be the highest energy dog you will ever meet in your life. So she definitely, when I tell you that there was like that our set was like never dull. I really mean that, all the way down to like our animals.
Well, this movie's anything but dull. I mean, there's a lot of action. So I'm going to recommend it to everybody, especially the way you execute that one shot action sequence. That was just perfect. I have to say that. You
Oh,
did
thank
great in
you.
that.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Have a nice day then.
Have
Thank
a
you.
nice day.
Dakota Beavers, how are you, Dakota?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. This movie, wow. After watching, Predator for, so long, it's nice to see something, really gritty, slimmed down, but also gritty. So I was wondering, before we get into that, what was your, what was it like to approach the brother and sister dynamic? Because, Taabe is such, she respects her sister, Naru, and says follow her, it's kind of thing, and always entrusts her to know what to expect, I guess. So what was like that, to establish that chemistry between you two?
I really loved having that human dynamic, between the two, because obviously, you got this horror action, vibes going on, but to be able to play an older brother who, is not, the traditional jealous older brother. Oh, she's great at this, she's great at that, but to be someone who really loves his family and supports them, and is there for them when they need the most. I just was so happy to be a part of.
So this is really a physical role, and the portrayal of indigenous cultures is in a way, that finally puts them, in the forefront, sort of thing. They're not treated as supporting roles or, treated as a villain. What was it like to find out that, this is going to be the kind of movie that shows indigenous cultures in a respectful manner, but also in a high, high dynamic kind of sci-fi film?
It was so wicked, man. I mean, first off, we got Jhane Myers, the Comanche woman herself, as the producer, making sure everything is as accurate as we can get it to be. So many times in movies in the past, we find them in the late 1800s, after disease and wars have really taken their toll. But to be kind of at the beginning of all this, when they're strong and they're who they are, and to portray them in that strength, was really pretty amazing for me.
And it's amazing for you, and I suspect it's amazing for everyone of indigenous cultures, especially with a film like this. And then there's Reservation Dogs, and then there's Rutherford Falls. Where do you see, indigenous cultures and modern American stories going forward from here?
I would love to see, I mean, me personally, I mean, so many times, natives get portrayed as, as they were back in the day, but it would be so cool to see them, starring in just, your everyday movie, man. I'm playing a lawyer, I'm playing a doctor, you're
Yeah.
you're a Jedi, you know what I'm saying? Just doing their thing without it being stuck in that niche would be pretty amazing. Not to say that this movie is niche. I love this project.
Oh man, that would be great to see that. So speaking of that, what was it like to have, be able to be a part of the dubbing process, I guess, for
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So we got to dub the whole movie in Comanche. Originally, we were going to shoot it in Comanche, but they ended up, shooting it the way that they did. But going in and doing the whole Comanche dub with the original cast, which was amazing for me. I find the language so fascinating. Talking to Guy, he was one of the guys one of the Comanche guys who translated the movie. For me, language is very fascinating, and just learning sentence structure and how they put things, and also having it there for future generations, preserving it for the kids to learn it in a fun way, was very, very important and awesome for me.
Oh, thank you, Dakota, so much for this. It was such a great time to spend to talk to you about this movie.
Oh, thank you, brother. I was so glad to be here today. Hope you have a good day, man.
You too. Thank you.
teachers, fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The Hard Knock Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.